Hello everyone, this is Mark from 3D Origami Dream Bank, and I have a review or some information for you concerning the cutting dies with paper ejecting, and I just wanted to go over some brief history on how these things develop. So the other day I thought about trying to make these cutting dies, the paper ejecting process, a little bit easier. As you know, when you cut paper, you just kind of go like this and the paper comes off. And it's not that bad of a technique, but I do look for other ways to make it a little bit easier for my fingers and as easy as I can for families, children, and adults alike. So part of my thinking was to make some cutting dies that are able to paper eject. That's the purpose for putting the holes in. And I thought, why don't I make a machine or a cutting die that goes along the side? And while it was a good idea, it didn't really work out so well, but I was on the right track. And then I thought, why don't I make like a double star, which worked pretty good. But when the stars don't line up, it tends to jam. But the name started to develop, and the name was Omega Star. So that's where the name comes from. And then I started thinking about this process here, which works really well. But I noticed by putting the magnets at the bottom, I was scratching my cutting die, which it could take scratches, but I don't want my cutting die to get scratched. So here's some worn out activity here. And so I just try to preserve my cutting dies this way. So future developments, I started putting some designs on the cutting dies or the paper ejector. And so I put the magnets at the top. And this is a really well-made, constructed paper ejecting tool. Very easy to use, kid-friendly. I just think it's a really good tool. And it really ejects the paper really well. And then I thought, why don't I make something a little bit more advanced? And so I started dropping magnets inside of different various one wheel, kind of like a fidget wheel that you see nowadays. And so this is a pretty sophisticated fidget wheel. And although it works really well on paper ejecting, I just don't like the way that it moves. So I moved along to another one, which is this flat base, like barrel one, and it works pretty good too. I just didn't have the maneuverability, even though this is like 90% me liking it a lot. I just want it to be better, and so I started trimming it down a little bit, and I put some grooves in it, and this one works a lot better. I am really happy with this one. They all work pretty good, but I'm really what I'm leaning towards is this design here. This one, I really like it a lot. And it has a rounded edge, which gives me this maneuverability for being straight up and down. Also, see it straight up and down. Also, I can tilt it a little bit and use it tilted, which gives me more of a natural hand curvature and ease of use. So here is more of a angle. You can see how the paper gets ejected. And so let me briefly explain a little bit about the cutting dies. So in the background here we have a lot of different cutting dies, from an original cutting die 1/32 with embossed dots, regular 1/32 no embossed dots. This paper ejects off really well and pretty fast. Here's 1/64, so half size. And then we have quarter size 1/128. You can make a bunch of small paper this way. This cutting die is for a kind of like a paper making rotary machine that I'm developing. It's kind of on the back burner right now because I have these other cutting dies that I'm moving ahead with. Here's the same 1/32 cutting dies, but one has corners that are missing, and ones that don't. So this is the original 1/32, and this is a new version of 1/32. Both have paper ejecting. And this is missing the corners just because eventually I'm going to make a paper folding machine that you just turn a couple cranks and the paper gets folded. So it's kind of a secret. It's going to come out sometime soon. I just wanted to finish this project first to develop what I call the Omega Star. And right now I'm done with the Omega Star, so I can move on to bigger and better hopes and dreams. So I wouldn't say that these are mistakes, because these are just building blocks to what I can see in my mind, and it's to further develop this type of art. And I'm just looking to try to make it as easy as possible. And I don't see anybody else right now trying to perfect this type of 3D origami, or the process rather. So let me demonstrate some paper ejecting for you. So I'm going to take this cutting die here and give you an idea. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it. And I'll go ahead and return the plate back so you can see the plate. And so here's the paper peeling process. Some of the paper came off, and it happens. But what you need to see is the process at which this paper gets ejected off of here. And then this thing just pokes the paper out like that, and then all the paper comes off. And I'll show you again one more time. And what I've done is I've taken away the having to bend as much, because it can make your fingers sore. But I will tell you one thing about this is that you can bend and twist this one a lot better than you can twist this one, because this one has a tendency to dig into your hands. It's not going to cut you or anything, but it does dig into your hands a little bit. And then cutting thousands of strips of paper, it does get a little sore in your hands. But this one, without this tool, is still equally just as pleasurable to use. This is just something that just is icing on the cake, and it'll help you do all of your paper ejecting. So I'm going to go ahead and cut one more. Peel the paper off. And just go ahead and just go like that. It's kind of hard to use it backwards and show the camera at the same time, but when I'm looking at it, I can get it inside every hole, and I'm not missing a beat. So this is my review of the Omega Star and how things develop. Stay in touch. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.